Ready, set, go. It's time to transplant the irrigated tobacco crop. A pleasant day to you all, dear growers. My name is Tendai Shirihove, an agronomist with Kataga, and I'm delighted today to share with you some very important aspects to ensure that you have yet another successful irrigated tobacco crop. My outline is as follows. We'll look at the importance of the tobacco irrigated crop, discuss the ideal transplant, the actual transplanting, key considerations for the irrigated crop, as well as discuss crop nutrition and crop protection aspects, and wrap this all up in summary. Now, the irrigated tobacco crop I'm referring to is the early September planted crop. This gives growers a chance to even do double cropping if they would like. The advantage of this early irrigated crop is that it has high yield potential and ultimately higher profits. It is important to note, however, correct irrigation management is. By now, you should have done your pre-irrigation, your land preparation, soil analysis, a service which we offer here at Kataga. You should have selected your ideal variety, hardened your seedlings, and applied your baton 48 hours to transplanting. Now, what is the perfect seedling? You should be able to identify the perfect seedling. It should be 12 to 15 centimeters long, 6 to 10 millimeters thick. It should have been well hardened, having 8 to 10 leaves below the bud, and most importantly, a strong and vigorous root system. Now, the good thing about Kataga varieties is all of them can be grown as the irrigated crop. However, there's a condition for this. You'd require adequate burn capacity. If not, do not despair. You should consider a variety which has fast speed to topping, medium to fast ripening, and a high holding capacity. Varieties to consider here are your KRK 26R, your KRK 70R, and your KRK 73. And looking at the actual transplanting, it is important to fill the planting hole with water. I will explain this further as we proceed. Transplanting is also a good time to step in with your herbicides in the planting hole and after covering up your lambda to protect your crop from cutworms. This will ensure that you have a good plant stand, the optimal population, and that ultimately results in a good yield. Now, looking at key considerations for an irrigated tobacco crop. Like I've said earlier before, irrigation management is key. Poor cured leaf quality in middle reaping is associated with incorrect management in the early of the crop growth. Now, looking at pre-irrigation, you should target 1000 millimeters before ridging. And back to transplanting, you should ensure that there is sufficient water in the planting hole to achieve a link up. Settling in irrigation. This is the irrigation you apply after you've transplanted your plants. And it is useful for many different reasons, including settling the soil around the roots, activating your herbicides, ensuring that there's adequate moisture for root development, cooling the soil, reducing evapotranspiration, reducing leaf scalding, and transport. Now, talking about what is defined as the first irrigation. This is dependent on the growing area and the soil type. For the warmer, fast-growing area, you need to step in at 4 weeks after planting. For the cooler, slower-growing areas, 5 weeks after planting. For light soils, you need to target an irrigation of 25 millimeters, and for heavy soils, 35 millimeters. Now, looking at the phase of grain growth of your tobacco crop. Unfortunately, this coincides with the October, which is the hottest and driest month. It is characterized by an increase in evapotranspiration. And the natural response to this is to increase irrigation. However, there is danger in this. You can end up leaching out a lot of your nitrogen, and this may result in reduced leaf quality. And the solution to this is quite clear. Irrigation scheduling based on evaporation from the standard A-type evaporation. Now remember to analyze your irrigation water. You should look at 50 parts per million of chloride and below. You should irrigate at night as it is more efficient. and consider key development stages, such as between establishment stage and knee height, and during the phase of grand growth period, because appropriate irrigation management during these periods may lead to deeper root development during the early stages and improved yield and quality during the grand growth. Now, looking at the nutritional aspects, whatever you're going to be putting in your soil, ensure that this is based on a fertilizer recommendation, which should be based on soil analysis. Kutsaga offers free fertilizer recommendations for tobacco. Now, looking at the 4 R's of nutrient stewardship, make sure that you have fertilizer from the right source, you're applying it at the right time, basal fertilizer at planting, your top dressings at 3 to 4 weeks, and at topping, the right rate dependent on the soil and fertilizer recommendations, as well as the right place. You do not want to put your fertilizer where the crop will not be able to use it. Now, looking at plant protection aspects, the key things to consider here are nematode control, pest and disease control, as well as weed control. During transplanting, you can control nematodes by applying vellum into the planting hole. For pest and disease control, remember, before transplanting, you should actually spray your seedlings with Baton to prevent sortion in the field. At five to 6 weeks, as well as 7 to 8 weeks, you step in with your Bion. And this helps as a preventative spray for the prevention of angular leaf spot. From 8 weeks going on, at 8 to 14-day intervals, it is important to rotate the chemicals Folicure, Castodia, as well as Azoxygeo. These are useful in the prevention of Alternaria and frog eye. So it's very important to know that most of these diseases can be prevented. And if you're interested in ensuring profitability of your irrigation investment, you should stay on guard and ensure that the diseases are managed and prevented actually. With regard to weed control, it is very important for us to consider the integrated weed management, which incorporates mechanical prevention, cultural, as well as because most growers are shy of chemical control. I felt that it's important for me to highlight some of the benefits of chemical control as I attempt to demystify chemical control of herbicides. You have efficiency and speed of control, cost effectiveness, reduced labor, and ultimately, usually, if done well, good. For the pre-emergent herbicides, we have S-metolachlor, sulfentrazone, and clomazone. And it is important to come in with that settling in irrigation as it helps to create that herbicide seal required to activate the weed control. For the post-emergence herbicides, examples are your halosulfuron, your bentazone, your fluazifop, and your propaquizofop. It is important to step in with post-emergence herbicides when the weeds are still small and actively growing. And it's also important to know the weed spectrum within your field. This will help you to control your weeds effectively. Now, to wrap this up, I'd like to propose to you the 6 P's of successful irrigated tobacco crop, which I hope you always remember. The first P is planning. It's very important for you to plan all the activities that you're going to do so that everything you do is done on time. It is important to have the next P, ideal planting material. Make sure that you have the ideal planting material so that you set your yield high. Ensure that you only not have enough water, but quality water. And as I alluded to earlier, Kutsaga has the capacity to test your irrigation water samples for you to ensure that you have quality water for your tobacco plants. Protection aspects, do not forget prevention is better than cure. Make sure you're doing all your agriculture practices on time and very well to ensure that you protect the yield potential of the Kutaga varieties. And last but not least, profitability. Everything that we're doing has to end up with high profits for you, the dear tobacco grower. Now, here's to another productive, sustainable, and profitable tobacco season. Thank you.